who are the other players? So we got Lockheed, Skunk Works, we got Raytheon, we got Northrop Grumman. Is Boeing involved in this?
Yes, there's a division of Boeing that absolutely is involved. General Motors has traditionally, and Ford, and General Electric for sure, and EG&G. EG&G is a major player in this space, as well as Raytheon and TRW. Booz Allen Hamilton has an aspect that deals with this problem.
So are these, and then there was the construction company who's building these underground facilities.
The Bechtel Corporation and HIT Construction.
So are these companies competing with each other?
They do get into competing bids. It's a very interesting story. One of my whistleblowers who's still too afraid to come forward, that I've dealt with for about 7 years, was 10 years in the Pentagon and worked in a very classified operation deep underneath the Pentagon. And he was read in across 18 of these unacknowledged SAPs, unacknowledged special access projects, dealing with this issue. And one of the things that happened there was a 3-star general that was brought into near Fort Sill, Oklahoma, at Lawton. And there was a skiff, an underground facility where we had downed an extraterrestrial vehicle. And this general brought an unauthorized person who was his girlfriend, who was a Booz Allen Hamilton executive, so that she could see what they were studying, so her group would get a leg up on the competing contract to study how those objects cloak or disappear and reappear. And he was actually CID, Criminal Investigative Division, after having been a mainline military. And I know the general's name. We have all this. It's been handed over to the investigators for the U.S. government. But he ended up being demoted a star, but he was never prosecuted because the Department of Justice was blocked from being able to gain access to what it was that he did, because the projects don't exist. I mean, this is gets into very complicated legal and SecOps, the whole security around these operations. But because of the extreme level of secrecy, the big problem with the public and the media is they think you're president, you're chair of this Senate committee and what have you, and that there's this vast conspiracy of these kind of people lying to the American public. It's the opposite. They're actually victims, most of them. Now, there are a few devils. I'll be quite blunt. I'm not going to name them. There are a few devils in the government, we know who they are, who are sort of embedded operatives to basically gaslight and deceive members of Congress or people in the White House or what have you. And because they have sort of an all-access pass, they can put themselves in positions of authority, but their authority is based on deceiving the constitutional leadership of the U.S. government.
Well, I'd like to get into that as well. Back to the military-industrial complex companies, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Skunk Works, all these. How many people do you estimate are on these programs within these different companies?
Well, there are thousands. There has
thousands at each company?
Not at each company. Well, the bigger ones, very likely. Now, remember, you can have, because of top secret special compartmented information protocols, you can have a guy at this desk in a cubicle working on something. He'll have no idea what this one's working on.
So you have basically an enterprise of people that are all working on one project, not realizing what that project is.
Correct.
Okay.
They wouldn't know. Now, at the more senior management and coordination, they would, obviously. But let's call them the pieces out there. They would have one piece of it. But those can be very valuable sources of intelligence that I've been meeting with for decades, because they may know just one area. They may have this one sliver of information. I feel like my job has been to do the whole comprehensive intelligence assessment from thousands of pieces from credible people inside these corporations and in government programs, and put them together into, it's like a scattered puzzle with 1,000 pieces. So you got to eventually put it together into the picture. And so sort of one of my tasks is to make that picture come together based on specific evidence, whistleblower testimony, documents, everything, which has really been my whole project. I mean, since 92, 93, And when I briefed the CIA director in 93, we had a comprehensive assessment of the situation. And that's evolved in 30 years, obviously, because we keep getting more granular detail and specific intelligence. And this is what we've been handing over to the U.S. government since they passed the law a couple years ago, ordering the Director of National Intelligence and the Pentagon to report on this. Now, the problem is the people who were put in charge of that, to be quite blunt, couldn't find their ass in a well-lighted room with both hands. And sorry, it's my old Southern expression, but they absolutely had no idea, about the issue. And you saw last spring, there was a couple of those guys, Dr. Shawn Kirkpatrick and an ONI guy, and they were before Congress, members of Congress who'd looked at our Disclosure Project content prior about the Maelstrom Air Force Base, Minot, North Dakota case where there was a intercontinental ballistic missiles taken offline. I think it was 18 of them, something like that. And they asked Dr. Kirkpatrick and the other gentleman from Naval Intelligence, and they go, well, we've never heard of that. Well, anyone who would have read the disclosure book that came out in 2001, we have the documents, we have the government official documents, we have the NORAD documents, we have the two witnesses, one who was in NORAD and one who was in the silo, all on the record, right?
Wow.
Firsthand. So now we have 100 of those that we've already brought out. Go to my YouTube channel. You'll see 70 of them up there, or 80. The problem is that when you're first trying to find out about this, the amount of information, like we're sitting on 8, 9, 10 terabytes of data in my archive that we're trying to organize. We call it the Disclosure Project Intelligence Archive, the DPIA. And that's what we're putting and organizing and handing off. As soon as we get it to any state and new information, I hand off another hard drive to these top secret guys who are trying to find out. But we need to pick up the pace, obviously, because there's a clock. We'll talk about this. There's a clock now been set on this.